Hey, love, my name is Brittany Pollard, and you are now rocking with the Everyday Intentions podcast, your source for real conversation centered around stepping into your personal power, one intention at a time. This podcast is all about owning our voice, taking up space, expressing ourselves, and moving through life at our own pace. You are invited to the magic, so let's roll. What is up, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Intentions podcast, y'all. My name is Brittany Pollard, and I am the host of the show. And here we talk all about change, growth, and transformation, doing it all on our own terms through small, daily, intentional thoughts and actions. Today's show is so good. I have my friend Olivia Thompson on, and she is just the plug for any type of intuitive readings. If you want to learn more about the zodiac sign, if you are interested in just getting tarot pulls and just general readings to understand what's going on with the collective, like her intuition, y'all, is on point. She be giving some real information. And she and I talked about one of my favorite subjects, which is manifestation. If you know me, I love a good manifestation talk. So I am here for it. I stand for it. We talked all about how to work with the energy of new and full moons. We talked all about how to start your healing journey. And we talked about how to begin to become a more conscious individual. This episode is loaded with realness, with information, and laughs, which is always my type of show. Over the years, Olivia learned that circumstances don't determine who you are or who you can become. As a child who was raised in a single parent household, an energy healer, and self love enthusiast, Olivia has definitely learned not to limit, label, or minimize herself. In her ongoing life's journey, she has learned to be more open minded when approaching her relationships, future successes, spirituality, and growing with every step. She enjoys helping people feel beautiful and connected to their higher self by sharing and growing with them through her experiences, both ongoing and past. Get into this episode, y'all. Hey, y'all, I just got a quick note before we hop into the show. In this episode, Olivia and I also spoke about my workshop, Dare to Dream. That was before everything with the COVID blew up. So the dates have shifted and we're actually moving this beautiful event online. So if you are interested in coming to Dare to Dream, if you're interested in connecting with your inner fires, your passions, your dreams, the things that you want to create, and you want to learn how to step into manifesting those desires, please, I would love for you to join me. The new date is going to be May 9th. That is a Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon PST because I am in California. So we are going to be having this amazing event on May 9th from 10 a.m. to noon. I would love to host you and have you. And everything that we receive from the workshop will be reciprocated into the community and donated to a nonprofit organization here in Compton. So once again, Dare to Dream, May 9th, if you are interested in purchasing your ticket or you just want to donate and pour into the community, check out the links in the show notes. All right, y'all, let's get into this. What is up, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Intentions podcast. My name is Brittany Pollard, and today I have someone on the show who is so special to me. I have only met her in person actually once, and we were joking when we got on the call that this is like our first time having a call together, and we've been like trying to plan it for months. It just like wasn't working. A lot was going on. So I firmly believe in divine timing of all things, and I'm just so happy to have the lovely, beautiful, and amazing Olivia Thompson with me here today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, girl. I'm so
Yes,
excited.
you. Me too. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners, Olivia.
Okay, my name is Olivia Thompson. I am so excited to be here. I've been on this self love journey for about 5 years consciously, and I've learned so many things through astrology, through tarot, and self love and energy healing that I'm just excited to share it with people because I feel like they don't have to suffer through their lessons so hard. And it's like if we can all collectively come together and help each other, it's like uplifting the collective consciousness of all of us as women.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I'm excited for you to dive into like all that stuff that you talked about. And I also want to share with people that you do readings too. So
Yes,
you want to,
I do. I do intuitive readings, and I call it that for a couple of reasons. A lot of times when people hear tarot or oracle, sometimes it can trigger people with their religious background. And I don't want people to feel like they have to dismiss any of their beliefs that that they choose or that they've grown up in when they're getting a session. So it's just tapping into the energy that's always there anyway. And I
Mhm.
use it to help people, to empower people so that they can better their lives, but just from an energetic perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that so much. And when I was thinking about our conversation today, that was one thing that I wanted you to touch on, because I also do tarot. But before I had a friend introduce me to it and share about it, I was like, oh no, that's the devil's work. Like I was like, you ain't
Girl,
gonna
me too.
exactly. I'm like, you're not gonna catch me with none of that. But then I learned that that's not what it is. I mean, they're tools, right? You can use them to whatever you believe in. But I really want you, as we get into the episode, just to share about that, just to kind of give people a breather around it so they don't feel intimidated and scared of it.
Okay, well, I'm like, where do I start? like,
Well, before
um,
we get there, if it's okay, I want you to share about your journey because you said that you've been on this whole journey of self-love and all this self-discovery consciously for the last 5 years. What was it like for you before you started on this journey?
huh. Before I was consciously on my self love journey, I was hitting a lot of walls, a lot of walls in my life. And
Mhm.
I come from a Christian background as well. Well, I don't know if that's your background, but a lot of us, have different religions in our background. And I would just be like, why is this happening to me? Like, I'm a good person.
Mm.
And I went through a lot of traumas with family members, daddy daughter relationship. And I was kind of just hitting wall after wall after wall. So it started like I felt like I was awakened into my self love journey from repeating a lot of mistakes, but they were detrimental, like car accidents, like psychics coming to me up off the street telling me things that manifested a year later. Very bold, very loud. I could not ignore them. So I did not choose this consciously, although it became a conscious practice over time.
Mhm. And how did you start to develop that relationship with your intuition? Because I know that a lot of people they're confused about that. They want to start their journey, but then they also don't know where to start. If you could just give us some tools and tips on, even though you didn't choose it, what skills did you start to pick up on as you started to walk this walk, and what can you offer people who know that there needs to be a change because they might be experiencing the same types of situations or things are consistently coming up and they know, all right, I need to change, but I don't know where to start.
I think that the easiest way to start is by journaling. I've naturally used to journal a lot when I was a kid. And I think that by journaling, you kind of have like an awareness that you don't catch if you're not conscious, because basically consciousness is being aware.
Yeah.
So doing anything consciously. So for me, it was writing down, oh, this is what happened to me today. And like, this happened with so and so. And I'm like, wait a minute, that happened with me with so and so. Like, I'm in the same situation with a spouse that I was in with a friend. And they're both mad at me for the same reason. So it was kind of like recognition, a lot of it through journaling. When I'm looking back, like, it's the repetition of the same theme in my life.
Mm,
And I think that kind of helped me be more conscious. So I'd say to anyone who's like, where do I start? To sometimes getting all of those thoughts out of your head, like, this
yes.
is where I am in my life. Like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like my spouse. I don't like my job. Like, sometimes we're so heady that we don't know how to feel, because even though writing, I think, feels like a heady activity, there's so much going on upstairs, and we have to work, and then we have our relationship. So I think getting it out where you can look at it, there's an awareness in that on a very ABC kind of level where it's like, man, just connecting the dots and looking at your thoughts on paper, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, I agree. I love that. I love that. I'm a huge fan of journaling, and I think I spoke about this before on the show, but journaling allows you to have just such a level of honesty, because sometimes it's hard to talk to people about things, especially when you know or you feel like you're in the wrong. It's hard
It's
to
so
admit
hard.
that. But, if you can write it down and just be real and honest with yourself, like, this is what happened, this is how I feel about it. And I love, love, love your idea of just going through it to catch any themes, because that is like your big sign of like, here's where your healing can start.
Right. And it's hard because being conscious is practice and it's not easy to catch your thoughts because you would already be conscious. it's like
Right.
it's like that mental trap. It's like so I'm like, what's a way that I can look and record my growth or my just different themes in my life? Because a lot of times it's really hard to jump to meditation from that place.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's really hard to go to a therapist because then your mind starts to kick in like, first of all, you have to be vulnerable. You have to have insurance. You got to have money to have insurance. And then your mind goes on that track.
Mhm.
So that was something literally in my living room right now. I have about 15 journals over the course of from when maybe I was 10, but they're all sometimes it's scribbles and sometimes it's clear thoughts. But it's something that I can say it's easy to start with. And I still do it now. It's the one thing I still do now that I started with.
Mhm. I agree. I think that it's powerful. I love it. I feel like I have 15 journals just in the last year. So you're
Okay, girl, you're already ahead of that.
oh my goodness. I'm like, "Ooh, that's a lot of writing, and I need to start just like creating more in the world." I'm such a planner. I love to just sit and plan things and write things out. But I
That's
also can
good.
fall into getting like overwhelmed too. So I'm learning. I'm learning how to balance it all. So, okay, so let's say someone starts their journaling practice and then they gather this awareness around common themes. Then what do you suggest for them at that point?
Oh, this is so funny because I was just talking to my mom about this because I believe in my family. We talk about this stuff all the time. This is like
Mhm.
daily conversation. But I'd say that start to watch your thoughts around those themes. Actually, I'd scratch that. I'd say watch what you're saying. So,
Mhm.
is there anything that you're writing down on the paper that you don't like that you're hearing yourself say or that you hear people tell you?
Mhm.
So now, because when you write something, your memory is enhanced. So now you're conscious of what you wrote down. Just like if you go to the grocery store and you're like, I gotta get eggs, I gotta get this, and you write it down. You go in the store, you're more likely to remember than
Right.
if you just had it in your head. So start becoming conscious of what you're saying and what people are saying to you in comparison to what you've already written for a while.
Mhm.
Because then it's like, oh, it's kind of hard to jump to catching your thoughts if you're not even aware of any patterns. Or it's like, I like to do ABC, and start with breadcrumbs because it's much easier to be consistent. It's not such a huge jump for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I agree. The noticing. So noticing from the journal, then also noticing your words around it. And I think this is leading us up to talking about the law of attraction, and then just really one thing that I had to learn was just how powerful words were.
Yeah.
That's something that I didn't think about. So before it was like, oh, I hate this, I hate my body, I hate blah blah blah, and then I'm like, well, no wonder you ain't happy. Like, look at the things that are coming out of your mouth. When you're
Right.
talking about yourself or you're spending time talking down about others to other people, but just words literally hold so much weight, and they can make all the difference in our bodies and how we feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. I did the same thing too. Like I was, and from that awareness of what I was saying, it's almost like all of the negative things I was saying were true from a 3D perspective. And when I say 3D, I mean from just a tangible, you can see it, smell it, taste it. That's
Yeah.
what I mean when I say that. But I started noticing like, I do hate my job because I don't make a lot of money and I don't make a lot of money. It's like, so I started to notice with like the law of attraction, everything that I wrote that was negative, I spoke that was negative. I had conversations about it and it was my life. So it was like a circle of everything connecting. And I'm
Mm.
like, if what if I just wrote something that I, but as if it was true, because I'm writing negative things as if it's because it is true in my experience. So I'm like, so that's kind of what sparked my interest in it before I knew all of the mechanics and all of the teachings of law of attraction.
Yeah. I read this book. It's called E Squared by Pam Grout. And it was just about that. It was all about the law of attraction, which we can get into. And I would love for you to share about it and just give your definition of it. But that was one book that kind of slowed me down and was like, okay, pay attention to what you're thinking, what you're saying, and
Mm,
what's also in front of you. And you can choose different.
that's the
Um,
powers and the decisions. So true. I gotta
yeah.
look at that book after.
Yeah, check it out because I think too, like a lot of us, and I still go through this now. We don't really think that there's another choice when there always is a choice. And if you're
Right.
only speaking life into a choice that you don't like, you're not leaving yourself any room for the millions of choices that you have that we're fortunate to have today, you know? So,
So true.
yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the law of attraction and just, I would love for you to just explain your wisdom on that.
Girl, the law of attraction has Woo!
Girl,
girl,
girl.
girl, this is my subject. Some girls got like the hair and the nails, but this is my subject, okay? Because I'm literally, how do I even put this? The law of attraction to me is the one thing that has been consistent, and I'm sitting in a manifestation of it right now. It's something that is very real. A lot of people get caught up on their words. Like
Mm,
if you say it, it comes true. And then the people who doubt it say, no, I say this all the time and I didn't get hit by a bus. Things of that nature, like, oh, I
mhm,
think I'm gonna get hit by a bus. And then it's not so literal. But what I found is the energy behind what you say always manifests into physical reality. Well, first into spiritual reality, because we're more than one dimension. So it's like if you might say, oh, using the bus as an analogy, like, oh, I feel like I'm going to get hit by a bus. The energy of that is negative impact.
mm,
So maybe your relationship's negatively impacted. Maybe what you're eating, you're feeding yourself. You're just, I don't know why I just want ice cream today. I don't know why I just want like it's an energy. So if I would say anything to anyone is that there is a relationship between what you say and what you experience. And I think
mhm,
a lot of people make it so literal, like, oh, I want to manifest a car. I want to manifest a relationship. Well, let's dial it down to energy. What you're saying is just a result of what you are vibrating on an internal level.
mm,
So a lot of people, when they start out, they're like so caught up on their words. Yes, this is true. It's actually more impactful not to say anything than to say something negative.
mm,
And then for me, what I've done is I am just conscious of it. If I said something like I review my day when I'm journaling, like, man, I shouldn't have said that. This girl was saying, I hate my job. And I said, I hated my job too. Okay. So how can I create a new narrative?
mm,
You
mhm.
know? And then maybe you start off by saying nothing. That's much easier to say absolutely nothing because that person has to eat that energy. It has to pile on more for them because now it's not reciprocal.
Mhm, mhm,
And so they're going to feel it more and they might actually become more uncomfortable. They might not want to talk to you on the break anymore. They may not want to hang out with you. You'll notice the shift. Actually, there's more power in saying nothing than trying to decide how to defend yourself with using the law of attraction. And that's kind of the model I did. It was just kind of quiet. And then that actually made me more conscious of what people are saying because sometimes we're talking so much that we don't even notice our own energy, let alone other people's energy. We're still trying to figure out
Yes.
ourselves.
Right. 100%.
So, like that's kind of how I operate now. But that's
Mhm,
where I started too, is just observing the energy. Because when you're quiet, you can see other people's energy, not just what they're saying. You're like, dang, that person's really negative. Their boyfriend ain't nothing. Like everything's negative. Their hair is broke off. Like everything. And you're like, dang, I try and aim with you every day at work, every
mm,
day. And so just by not saying anything, your words are important, yes, but it's more of the energy behind your words. Because when you're sensitive to how your body feels when someone says something, they could be like, girl, I just met the love of my life. What do you feel? Do you feel
mm,
jealousy? Do you feel triggered? Do you agree with them? Oh, girl, he's gonna cheat on her. He's too cute. Cute people
Mm-hmm.
cheat. It's you get to hear the vibration behind things that you would normally be too loud talking to
Mm-hmm.
even catch. So I was like, dang, I'm a fucking jealous bitch. Like, sorry, I am jealous as hell. And of course, I didn't want to admit that. I'm like, why? Okay. Because I've only had negative examples of relationships. So my
Mm-hmm.
belief at the core is it's not real.
Yeah.
How could I be happy for you? Oh, she's in la la land. It don't exist.
Yeah.
So law of attraction is not for anyone who doesn't want to get on the operating table and take out those negative beliefs and sew up stuff and cut stuff out. It's work.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful work with the payoff. And then you'll start to see that you don't even have to be so specific. You can be specific about what you want through journaling and intention setting, but the energy in your higher self, source, God, whatever you want to call it, knows your desires. And once you get out of your way and remove those limiting beliefs, you'll just start attracting everything that you desire without stressing about, oh, well, I didn't put this on the paper and I didn't say that. And it's like
Yeah.
things, the things with your life become so much more beautiful from that work.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with paying attention to energy. I agree with the vibration behind things. Because another thing is like you can't say something with a negative energy behind it. Like you can't be like, yeah, girl, one day I'm gonna be a millionaire, but like you not really believing it. You just saying it just because you think that the words flying out of your mouth is gonna make it happen. So I
Yeah.
love that you speak to that. Just really being cognizant of like what you're feeling as you're speaking is so important. And along with the law of attraction, like I want to talk about how you manifest at your house. Like y'all can't see this, but Olivia's place, like I can only see a snippet of it, but it is just so beautiful. And I
Thank
want
you
you to
so
talk
much.
about how you ended up there because I've shared my stories. Like I've attracted jobs by just like journaling about it. Like there was a time where I was a personal trainer and I needed to make more income. And so I sat down and I wrote out like what I needed to make. And at the time, did I half believe it? Yes. But there was a part of me was like, like this has to work. And then lo and
Oh,
behold, like my neighbor came over and she was like, oh, my job is hiring because she knew I was looking. And then I got the job. And then so like I manifested my job now and like manifesting my workshop and things are happening because I'm journaling and because the more I'm doing it and the more I'm seeing it, the more evidence I'm getting. And so the more I'm believing in it in myself. Doesn't mean that I don't have times where like I'm like nervous or fearful or whatever. But I do know that when we set our intention towards something and we really put beautiful energy behind it, it is going to be created for us in ways that we may expect or may not expect. So
right,
walk us through your journey because your house is popping.
right. Girl, thank you. Wow, it's so crazy. I just moved to Arizona and have lived in LA for about 10 and a half years. It's my home.
Mhm.
I'm a military brat, so I never lived anywhere for long.
Mhm.
And just taking it back to my first manifestation of a place to live, because that is a big one.
Yeah.
Especially in LA, rent is not cheap and living on your own. People will
Yeah.
stay in relationships because of rent.
Mhm.
Or they will stay around a toxic roommate. Or I was living with a boyfriend at the time, and he was actually one of the biggest, most impactful components of my spiritual awakening, my consciousness. And it was a very, very toxic relationship,
Mhm.
just mental abuse. And not to get too off track, like I started having physical reactions to him, to the
Mhm.
energy of the apartment, getting sick, just all types of physical, losing my hair, gaining weight, like you name it. And
Mhm.
I was like, I got to get out. And I was like, but I don't have an apartment. Like, how am I supposed to? I got rid of my apartment with my roommate. I need to manifest something. So I was looking so hard, looking for apartments, looking, oh, I'll sleep underneath the bridge. Like, I just got to get the F out of here.
Mhm.
But the energy behind it was fear. I got to get out. I don't know what I'm going to do. But my couch, my beautiful couch that I spent all this money on, my furniture, my stuff. And it got so bad that I started having sleep paralysis, dreams, and
Mhm.
my soul couldn't take it anymore. And
Mhm.
so long story short, I had a meeting because a lawyer got involved. It got really bad. And he said, if you were my kid, I would tell you this. He's like, you're not married. You're not, basically not saying for anyone who's not married, but you have to look at the situation sometimes cut and dry. You're not going to die.
Mhm.
So he said, how much is all your furniture worth? And I said, well, resell, I could probably get 1,200. And when you don't have anything, $1,200 is a lot of money.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, okay, it's good to know what your peace of mind is worth.
Ooh, come through, lawyer. Come.
Come through. He was an angel. Shout out to him. He was an angel sent from the divine.
Yeah.
And so basically doubling back to what you said on manifestation, I
Mhm.
made a decision to let go of all the furniture that I had ever purchased. I basically furnished the place when I moved in,
Mhm.
and we got rid of his stuff. And all I took was the clothes and anything I could fit in my little Toyota Camry. And I got the F out of there. And I stayed on my sister's couch for, what was it, maybe 6 months.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's the thing right there. It's like we all want to manifest, but we have to understand there's a part that we have to play. And that word right there is surrender.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
when there's a manifestation you want so bad, it's like we want a house, right? We want to manifest a car, a relationship, but he's got to be this and it's got to be like that and it's got to be. And what the universe wanted for me what to do was surrender my control of these things. It's like I was holding on to it because I didn't believe. My core belief was I can never manifest this again. How am I supposed to ever finish my apartment?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
you
once
took
I
away
let
those
and
options.
I let go of it, you say, okay, take the wheel. As people would say, take the wheel,
Yeah.
you do it. But I did it angry. I was like, F this, I'm looking for this. And one day I was in the car, I was like, F this, like I'm looking for a place. I'm calling all these places. No one's getting back to me. I went from having a furnished apartment with someone I thought I was gonna marry to sleeping on my sister's couch for 6 months with nothing.
Mhm.
And one day I got mad. I said, you know what, whatever, I surrender, I give up. I'm done.
Mhm.
That same day, I got a call from one of the apartments that was full that said, hey, you can come stay here. It was in my price range. It was nicer than any of the places that I had tried to look for on a low level.
Mm, mm, mm.
And I had nothing but a backpack, no fridge, no microwave, nothing. But literally 90% of my furniture was gifted to me by my wealthy friends who were furnishing their house. Everything, boom, 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 came. So any manifestation, even my apartment now, all came at the point when I was able to surrender my control and to attach to my desire.
Mhm. Yeah, that is powerful. I just love when those angels just drop into your life like that and just give you the real. It's kind of like that
For
wake up
real.
call, right? That shake. Like, girl.
Papa, wake up, girl. It's like what I think the biggest thing is like when we surrender, we don't cling to anything because the universe wants to give it to us.
Yeah.
But there's always an incubation or period. Like, for example, when a woman's pregnant, I had to stay at my sister's house for 6 months. I didn't want to do that, but some people would go, oh, no, 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 but I want my apartment right now. I want to
Mhm.
take all my furniture. And I had a cat too. I lost a lot. But now I just moved from that same apartment. I was there for 4 years, never missed a payment. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Manifested a job after that, that I was able to pay and I had written down, I pay my rent with one check. That's it. Like the check comes for that and I have money left over. And I would just pay my rent in a week. And everything that I had said came when I surrendered. I did this with Arizona too. And once I was trying to control it, and once I said, okay, I let go. And I got rid of all that furniture that I
Mhm.
had manifested 4 years ago. And now all this furniture in my apartment is new furniture that's
Mm.
paid off. But I think every manifestation has come with me getting out of my own way and also giving myself a time to be pregnant.
Mhm.
Because the universe knows when that baby's going to come, but just knowing that it's going to come, not hoping, not wishing, not pray, not even when you pray, it's not saying, oh, universe, please. It's saying, thank you so much for my new place, as if you already have it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And all these things that I have at this place, I had written down and started thanking the universe for 3 years ago. I just thought it would be in LA. It just happens to be in Arizona, but that's the control again. Oh, it's got to
Right.
be in Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
And
Got
you
to be
wanted it like on your time too,
on my
right?
time.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's so important, and it's just the same thing as the phases of the moon, right? When it's full, it's bright, it's beautiful, it's shining, and then it goes into that period of quiet, and then you don't see it when it's new, and then it's the same thing, being pregnant, being
Oh,
willing to go into the darkness and incubate. And I think that just a part of that control, we also don't want to feel uncomfortable. It's like, I want to manifest this and I want it to be easy. Like, it needs to be easy, you know? And if it's
yeah,
not easy, then it's not worth it. And my time isn't worth it. And it's like, well, actually, some manifestations do come easy and some take us going through a period that doesn't feel so good. But what we don't know is it's always setting up and preparing us for what's on the other side of that too. Because
so
if we just
true.
got everything we asked for, like, I think I've said this before, but if someone just wants to wake up a millionaire, okay, if even if you were a millionaire, if you can't manage the $200 that's in your account right now, if you can't responsibly spend that without going into debt, without begging people for money or trying to borrow money, how are you supposed to manage $1 million? What you think is going to happen? Like, you have to do the work
Exactly.
to exactly create those beliefs. Or even with a job, if you want to be a leader or you want to go on stage and speak, and this is a part of my process right now. It's like, yes, I want to go on stages. Yes, I want to speak, but I get tired of talking to people. It's like, and not just that, because I'm an introvert, so I'm learning myself. And then I'm also learning when someone's on stage, there's an art to that. You have to learn stage presence. You have to learn how to
Right.
deliver a message, deliver content. It's more than just wanting to get up there and be seen. And so with anything, right? Playing an instrument. If you want to play an instrument on stage, and you're gonna have to spend hours with your fingers hurting, hands cramping, doing all of those things in preparation for that time period.
It's so true. And like, that's one thing that I think it's so interesting that you brought up the moon, because as I have learned so much about law of attraction, it's kind of assisted me with my spirituality. So I help people with the moon cycles, because the moon will always be in a different sign. Right now it's a full moon in Virgo,
Mm-hmm.
and Virgo is very detail oriented, but when it's in a low vibrational state, the energy of Virgo, I'm not just saying Virgos in general, but the energy of Virgo is self-critical because it's an analytical sign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So some people could feel like their to-do lists are, they got to keep coming up with all these things and they're not good enough and they got to do more and rush. And so if the moon cycles have actually helped me manifest quicker and much easier, because if you're in a sign, like we just got out of retrograde and it was in Pisces, that's a time. Pisces is all about connection to the divine, connection to God. It's slowing down. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're rushing and you're like, I gotta do this and I gotta pay my bills, you're not in sync with just the natural energy. If it's raining, you're not supposed to drive fast. You're supposed to drive slow. Maybe stay home. Maybe,
So
read
like
a
the
book.
people in LA.
Right? It's like it rained last night and I was supposed to do something. And I was like, do I really have to? Of course, you have to go to work, but it's all about like, I'm a big believer in going with the energy
Mm-hmm.
and working with
Surrender.
it. We surrender. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the common theme, and you can put it in any subject or any way you want to explain it. But I think, yeah, surrender would be the overall. And it's hard.
That's hard, but I think that anything hard is worth it.
Worth it. Yeah, so worth it.
So I want to talk, because I think I've only spoken about like moon energy once on my podcast, and I want to talk about that. If someone is interested in this and they're like, "Ooh, this sounds like something I want to do. I want to learn more about this." How can people start to learn how to attune themselves to the moon? How can they see that yes, this is a real thing, like it's not just something like made up, it's actually something that is very valid? Where can people start?
Well, the moon has so many phases and it can be overwhelming for people because they're like, what? This is so hippie. This is so. But if you think about it, a lot of times when you're in alignment as a woman, your cycle is going to be on the full moon or the new moon. You're going to
Mhm.
be in sync by nature. And even if you look at it from a very basic level, the ocean tides, how they're affected by the moon. And because we are made up of water, regardless of if you go with it or not, you're going to be affected by its energy. So if you just look at the moon as energy, the sun is energy, you feel the heat, you don't question if the sun's going to burn your ass, you go buy sunscreen. Like, you're not like, I don't believe in the sun's energy. It's not hot. Like, no, you're going to burn yourself. And you're going to be like, so wouldn't it be really strange if the moon did not emit any type of energy, but the sun did? It's just, I like to think of things, I like to break it down because I'm always talking to people and I understand that I'm that girl. I'm the girl who's like, ooh, the moon and ooh, like I
Yeah,
know.
same. And people
So
just be like, okay.
they'd be like, all right. So I like to, so if I was going to break it down, I do videos. This is what I do. So on my YouTube channel, it's Olivia the Bull. My Instagram is Olivia underscore the Bull.
Mm,
But what I do is I only stick to 2 cycles of the moon to keep it simple. The new moon, which you cannot see, which is in that beginning birthing stage, and then the full moon, which is illumination of that energy that you had already planted during the full moon. So I focus on 2 cycles. So to break it down in a simple way, anytime we say, "Oh, it's Aries season," woo woo, like it's all the Aries birthdays are in that time frame. There's always a new moon in that season. Any sign out of all the 12 signs, there's always a new moon.
mm,
So the new moon, the energy around it is what? New. It's like, what do I want to manifest? The new moon, when you don't see it at the beginning of the month, even if you don't track the moon and you don't watch channels like mine and you're just like, I want to manifest blah, blah, blah. That is the best time to write your affirmations. It's the best time to, so anything that you want to bring into reality, even if that's just a behavior. I want to believe more. I want to believe more in the powers of the universe. I want to believe more in God. I want to believe more in anything.
yeah.
Then the full moon is always going to be in the opposite sign of the new moon every single time. And if
Mm,
that's too much, just look at the full moon as that's when things are being illuminated. That's when things need to be released. That's when you let go. So that's when you might say, you know what, like I released the thought forms and the negative patterns that I was taught when I was born. You always want to give and receive. You want to have that energy of like, hey, I want to plant, but I also want to pull the weeds because you don't just want to be stuck in one energy. So that's all the new moon is. New moon is planting, and the full moon is pulling out those weeds. It's that's the work that I do. When I've done that, I just manifested, but not just so much from like, oh, a car or an apartment. I've manifested a different personality,
mm-hmm.
an evolved way of being from a spiritual level from doing that type of stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And with my workshops, with the Dare to Dream workshops, those were like a gift from my ancestors, but they're all designed around new moons. So the
Oh,
goal of the
wow.
workshop is for people to come and like set those new intentions. And I talk about manifestation. I call it practical manifestation because I believe in the divine, but I also believe in the work that we have to do here on the ground to make things happen. So we talk about like, what are the things you want to create? Like getting lost in that dreamland. So like I'm an Aquarius, so I live in the clouds all day long. So
Definitely.
I'm like, okay, let's talk about what we want to create and let's also talk about the steps that we need to do in order to make those happen, like what I mentioned earlier. And I just love how you talked about the full moon too, that time of like release of being shown like what's true and what's real and not running from it, being
Right.
like, okay, like let me call a spade a spade. I see this. Let me start to work on releasing this behavior. Is it going to be hard? Yes, because especially if you spent the last 20 years, operating from a belief because of your childhood, it takes time to
Yeah.
unwind that. But if you keep coming at it, if you keep being consistent with it over time, you'll start to see, like with the journaling, how you might write something down and you'll be like, man, wait a minute. Me 2 years ago would have never said this. Like, who is this person? And this is you creating.
So on point. So on point. Like I think the consistency is the hardest part, right? It's like working out. You don't just go to the gym one time, but I think if it's a lifestyle, I do the new moon and full moon rituals and the videos for people because it is something that I can consistently do to do the
Mhm.
work. It's just a channel through what I do that work. Some people, they're working out because, that's their thing. It's a stress reliever. If they
Hmm.
stop working out, you see the domino effect in your life, but it's not so much about the physical. You don't have to do new moon rituals to get to do this work, but you have to choose something that resonates with you personally that you can just be
Hmm.
consistent with. So if that's journaling, cool. If that's therapy, like whatever it is for a person, I'm not big on like saying my belief has to be your belief and this just because it's true for me,
Oh
it
yeah.
has to resonate.
Right.
But I think it's good the consistency that you said was like on point.
Yeah, yeah, figuring out what works best for you. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's like to stop looking around, like, yes, receive information, but I'm a big fan of receiving information, integrating it, throwing it out like what is like not real for right now or not needed for right now, and then paying attention to what is most active. Because sometimes we'll be in rooms where we're receiving information that we're not ready for yet, or it's just not the right time. And we try to like force ourselves to know it, or we take a bajillion notes and we try to recount all of them. But even in those moments, I find that if I go somewhere and if I'm in a workshop or if I'm listening to a video, what are the things that are sticking out for me? That's like my indication. If something is like blatantly sticking out, like, oh, shoot, you walk away from that video and 2 hours later, you're thinking, like, oh, this just popped up, then boom, that's what you focus on instead of like trying to
Right.
make it so hard.
Yes, I'm such a believer in not making breaking things down and making them simple and easy to digest for people. Because sometimes when people are so out there, although I can totally resonate with it because I'm out there,
Yeah,
I understand that like how do you bridge the gap from
right.
people who are trying to learn? Like it's kind of it's like what's the point? Like it's just all for you. It's like I let's help each other. Let's help each other get there. And
Yeah.
everyone has their own way of getting there. So that's why I love to do the readings with people one on one because it's like kind of like intuitive coaching where it's like, okay, last time we spoke, this is what happened, but it's just more from a spiritual perspective,
Mhm. Mhm.
but still helping them with reality. It's not just like all in
Yeah.
the clouds.
But they're both there at all times. So I love that you offer readings and you expose people to this other side that they can also lean into. So I want to transition into that. I want you to just talk about intuitive readings, talk about tarot, and just share like what it is. We've already established that no, it's not a tool for the devil, y'all. But just talking about the process of taking someone through a reading.
Okay, so when I do my intuitive readings, I always say that I'm not going to tell you anything that your higher self doesn't already know
Mm-hmm.
because it's all about connection. It's all about clearing out. It's not about creating, it's about clearing off the dogmatic beliefs, clearing off the doubt, the fear, the shame to get that connection clear because we all have a channel to the divine,
Mm-hmm.
God, source, whatever you want to call it. We all have a channel. And sometimes that channel is blocked by trauma. Sometimes that channel is not clear. You can't hear as well. Like in the church, they say the closer you are to God, the easier you can hear.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's when someone comes into a session, I'm going to mirror back to them energetically things that I see. I will always meditate and clear my mind of whatever's going on in my life at least for 30 minutes before I do a reading. And then I will show them what I'm picking up before we
Mm-hmm.
even start the questions, because I'm all about that subconscious healing. Then we will discuss whatever, but it's more about this is what I see, or this is the issue, or this is what you want to work on. This is the relationship, but this is the desired result. Now, how do we
Yeah.
get there? What's
Yeah.
the so it's basically, I don't want anyone to think of it any different from life coaching in the sense where we're not going to dwell on the issue. It's not like therapy in the sense where we're just going to dwell on it. We're going to transmute the energy for your highest outcome. And then in the next session, we're going to follow up on it. So
Yeah.
that's, I do that in my reading as a basic description.
No, I love that. I love that. I think I'm grateful that you explained it that way because a lot of people are like, you got to be careful. Like they're just going to try to prophesize over your life and tell you what to do. And it's
And
not,
I'm sorry, that's one thing I have to stress. Like, oh, I I come from a very intuitive family background where my dad would put even though he was Christian, and he still is. Like, he put a car on the fridge, we're manifesting this, and then he get that car. Or like, I had a dream about this and it happened. So I know that, to me, a lot of things that people see when it comes to readers is like, oh my God. But for me, it was kind of normal growing up. But a lot of people do use this in a negative way, like, oh, your boyfriend's going to break up with you in 6 weeks. Or, you know, and you don't ever know who they're connected to, who are they praying to, who are they. So it's very important to do your research and
Yes.
don't do anything that doesn't resonate with you. But one thing I have to say is whatever is a trigger in you needs to be explored. Even if,
Mm,
like, how do you know what you really believe if you haven't questioned it? Like, I had to go through the depths of my soul because I dated an atheist, and like, why don't you believe anything? But if I'm so angry that you're an atheist, I can't even come to my own truth. So I had to say, oh, because of this understanding.
mhm.
Even if something say, hey, I'd never do a reading, at least you say, you know what? I understand why some people would.
Yeah.
This is just another avenue. So I feel like before, even if you decide not to do it, don't do it from a place of fear. Do it from a place of empowerment. That is like where the breakthrough is, because you know, I don't need to do that because I have my own this, I have this. Great. But I feel like when people are hesitant, never let it be because of fear.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right. And
and
I'm
then
like,
just no, I love that and I appreciate it because I think that unfortunately there are people out there who are scam artists, right? Want to be careful. You want to be careful. You want to do your research and then also just tap into your body and think about how you feel. So if you come across this person and you're like, even ask yourself, I like to do body checks. So for me, the way I do this is I ask myself a question that's easily a yes and a question that's easily a no. And I tap into how it feels. So, like,
oh, that's a good one.
yeah, it's like super simple. And well, for me, people have to experiment in it and just see how it feels for them. But I know that yeses for me generally feel like a small little flutter in my heart. And then no's feel like a thud in my stomach, like you're dropping a pebble into on the floor or something. It's like a very like doop feeling. So
Right.
I might see someone, they might be like all glammed up, they might have all the things, all the followers, blah, blah, blah. And so I'll just check in, like, is this something I should work with? Someone I should work with? And just depending on the feeling, or sometimes you might hear a voice and it's just like a no. And then just being okay with that, surrendering to that and like moving on. And then I think just being open and then also being discerning and then just checking in, I think are like the top three things I would recommend for people to do whenever they're interested in trying something new.
And it's so funny that you say that because all of those things that you're doing is using your intuition, is tapping
Mhm.
into divine energy. And that's exactly what I'm doing in my readings. It's like, I don't just read for everyone. Like, this is not something that I chose to do for other people. It kind of chased me down, but I, I was not like, hey, when I grow up, I want to read cards for people.
Yeah.
No, but I can discern if someone's just wanting an answer. Oh, tell me what this is. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm an
Mhm.
intuitive life coach. Like, I'm an intuitive coach. Like, I'm going to help you with this storyline, how to heal this trauma from when you were 5. You're like, okay, why do I keep attracting the wrong relationships? Why don't you feel worthy? The next session might be like, oh, I didn't feel worthy because of this. And then it goes to your parents. And what I really believe is in generational trauma healing. And it's
Oh
more
yeah.
about healing the from the energetic from within.
Mm.
So I don't just take anybody. That's why I was gonna do chatty, like online chats, but it didn't resonate. I had that feeling, like that no feeling you had. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not a gimmick. This is my work. This is my purpose, is to help people, and this is just one of the many channels that I'm doing right now in my life, this time and space, forever how long I feel it's right. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, being open to it. Well, I love this. So we talked about journaling, we talked about just going through the different phases of life, we talked about manifestation, we talked about getting readings done and choosing a reader. Intuition, girl, we've talked about some things today.
Talked about some things. I'm so grateful to be here. This is a freaking honor. And this is a manifestation within itself.
Oh, yay. That makes me so happy. And I'm grateful for you. I'm so glad that you and I crossed paths last year, and
It
I'm
was
just
last
excited.
year.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That was summer of
girl.
last year, so it's been some time.
Wow, it doesn't
Mhm.
even that is that is wow. It
Yeah,
was
this
divine.
yeah, I agree, I agree. Well, thank you, Olivia. Before we close out, I would love for you to just share where people can find you, where they can follow you, where they can catch your videos, all the things.
Oh yes. So my business is Third Born. My website is Shop Third Born, and that's SHOP3RDBORN.com. And my Instagram is Olivia underscore the bull, as in Taurus. And my YouTube is Olivia the Bull.
Amazing. Thank you. And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes too for people. Y'all definitely check Olivia out. She's just such like, I don't know how to explain her. How would I explain her? You're just like this beautiful, bright, like illuminating soul, and you have just this amazing heart, and your energy is just so gorgeous and so sweet, and you offer so much knowledge. If you're interested in learning about moon cycles, especially because you break them down for each sign, if you want to dive more into spirituality, if you want to learn about crystals, if you want to learn about zodiac, talking about shadow stuff, if you want to dive into this world, definitely check Olivia out because she's a huge resource for
I really
people.
appreciate that.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Everyday Intentions podcast. We will catch you next time. Take care.